Okay, guys, so here we are again on Cuba. Remember and make sure you have already read your textbook, you have your notes with you. Okay, so let's go. We are still in 3.1. Remember, we have covered why is Cuba important to the USA because it's in their sphere of influence, as well as there's great economic value, right? What are the main crops? Sugar and tobacco. Okay, and because the USA is so interested, we know that they will keep intervening in Cuba. And we have this guy called Colonel Batista, right, which the US is supporting, but his rule is terrible. So eventually, the Cubans rebel, led by this dude called Fidel Castro. And so today we are going to look at Castro. He is in power. What are his policies? Okay, and what is the effect of his policy? So that is what we are looking at for this lesson. Okay, so there are two main things which we must know. Okay, one of them is Castro's sugar selling policy and the land reform law. Okay, now I say again, if you have not yet gone to your textbook and read the details, stop the video now and go and read the textbook. Okay, because the video only serves to connect the dots. Okay, so let's have a look at the first of them. It is about the Cuban sugar quota. Okay, so what is the Cuban sugar quota first? The first thing we need to think about is that a quota means a certain volume, right? This is where Cuba has to sell a specific amount to the USA, right? And why is the USA doing this? Because it means that the USA gets preferential prices on sugar. They get a guaranteed amount of sugar. So this, supposedly it's supposed to be good both ways, okay? Because the USA benefits, and because I am selling sugar to the USA, so I benefit, right? Theoretically lah. The problem is, of course, is what the second sentence here says, starting from the Cuban sugar quota, okay? What does it mean if they are reliant on American decisions? If the USA decides to stop selling sugar, what will happen? It means that Cuba cannot sell any sugar. That means the Cuban economy will not be doing very well. Okay? And so, what Castro wants to do is to avoid being dependent on the USA. Okay? So, if I don't want to sell to the USA, what must I do? Can I sell to his allies? Cannot be, right? Because they won't follow. So he's looking to Warsaw Pact countries. Okay, for example, you can see Yugoslavia, Egypt, Indonesia, Soviet Union, so on and so forth. Okay, so basically what he's doing, he is looking to diversify. He's looking to sell his sugar to other places. Now, is this a bad thing? No, this is very logical. This is what Singapore does as well. We buy and sell through many different countries. Okay. However, what is the implication of this? Let's have a look. Okay. The first point is that Castro's policy would threaten American economic interests. Why? Because it just means that they get less of the pie. Okay, they if I want to sell sugar to other countries, it means that the US has less control over the sugar economy in Cuba. Okay, but more importantly, if you look at the second point over here, if Castro is starting to sell things to the Soviet Union, to the communist bloc, how will the US see this? Okay, naturally, the US will see Castro as sympathetic, shall we say? Okay, and as you can imagine, this is not good because for the US starts to see Castro as hostile, right? Increasingly, he looks a bit more communist. He's not yet communist, he's associating with the communists. Okay, now what else does Castro do? Okay, now let's remember from the very start, where did the land in, who was controlling the land in Cuba? Remember that the land in Cuba was bought by the Americans, right? And so now, if I'm the Americans, I have a factory in Cuba, I own the factory, and as we said before, the profits from the factory go back to the USA. Okay, but now what Castro wants to do is that because he's a patriot, he wants to return the land back to the American people. So what is happening now is that he is going to take this land. It is no longer going to belong to the Americans. It is going to be returned to the people. So Castro thinks that, okay, when I give my farms and my land back to my people, at least the money, the profits don't go into the USA, the profits come back to the Cubans. Okay, this is great. However, what is the problem with this? How will the Americans respond? Okay, so firstly, this whole idea, the first point here, where it seems like a socialist, why? Is because this idea of I take my land and I divide it amongst my people. That seems like communism, right? This is this political framework called socialism. Okay, so it makes Castro look like a communist. Okay, but on the other hand, remember all this land. Who was owning this land? The American businesses, right? So that is the effect over here on the second point. What is happening is that I have some American businesses who no longer own their land, which means that they can no longer hold on to the factories and the businesses there. It means that America is getting kicked out of the Cuban economy. Okay, and so again, you see, this is political, this is economic. The land reform law, okay, makes, that's the summary, right? Equals to hostility, right? So there are economic effects and political effects which then show Castro to be hostile towards the USA. Okay, and finally, if we look at Castro, Castro also become BFFs, okay, not BFFs lah, okay, with Khrushchev. Now, who is Khrushchev? Khrushchev is the guy who took over Joseph Stalin, okay? So he is in power from 1953 onwards after Stalin's death. Okay, and so in the public eye, in the international political arena, Castro looks like he's friends with Nikita Khrushchev. Okay, and so if you are hanging out with the leader of the Soviet Union at United Nations conferences, how is the USA going to think about you? Okay, so if you look at the analysis, which is what you have to fill in your notes, okay, it makes the USA, it makes Cuba look like allies with the USSR. Okay, what is the effect? Again, they will think the USA will not trust Castro. So if you look at it all, as a result of Castro's actions, whether it is on the sugar quota, or whether it's on land reform, okay, or whether on his personal politics, all these put together make him increasingly hostile. Why? Because all the things that Castro is doing, okay, it threatens US political and economic interests. And we already know why those interests are there. Okay, so it's connected with this whole chapter. Okay, so because of this, the US will then see Castro as a threat, and that is what we are going to explore next. What the US does to Castro and to Cuba since they see Castro as a threat. All right.